everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery and a little different, change of pace today. I'm usually out down here earlier in the day when it's daylight out, but it's nighttime already. There's a couple bins I wanted to get caught up on. I've been busy all day, just got home, but there's still a couple more hours left, so I thought I would jump in here really quick. It's a pretty routine feeding of my European night crawlers. One of the bins is 113 days of age. The other one, 120 days of age. Only a week difference in their ages. Both of them over 100 days of age at this point. Been getting fed stuff that I don't want to see last very long in a bin. Stuff that I would assume is fast composting materials. And that's kind of what I'm gearing up their feeding today to be like. So I'll just slip on my glove, turn on a couple more lights, and we'll get the bin up here on the bench and get started. Sometimes I'll show my little cheat sheet here that includes some information about the bins just so I can look over to the side and see the information that I'm talking about and speak truthfully about it. So like I said, there's two bins here, a week different in ages. This is the younger of the two. This is the 113-day-old bin. And this is the bin that I actually started experiencing big problems with. Problems similar to what I saw in my red wiggler bins, where I had all my systems die out. The system was kind of exhibiting all the same symptoms and was in the same distress, but I finally got wise on, dealing with the matter. So I, pretty much had to rescue the worms and build a fresh environment to move them into. And that's the reason, it's part of the reason I even left this edge of the bin over here really soiled, full of the old muck that used to make up this bin. Because as I was scooping it out, some of it got on the sides, and I figured I'd leave it there as a reminder to myself that, this bin kind of had a close call and got saved. So I think it's doing okay. The numbers were impacted definitely by that occurrence, but I never changed the guess of how many worms occupy this system, because I think both systems were jotted down in the log as having started with 1,000 worms. Kind of an equal start in both bins, but then this one had the kind of that bad experience. But I just figured I'd give it the benefit of the doubt and never wanted to change its number to show that loss there. But the bin did get a new start date when all the old stuff got hauled out and the space that the worms occupy now was rebuilt. So wow, this is pretty deep actually. When I stick it in there, there's about this much material going down. So there's a pretty good amount of stuff in this bin. It's starting to get there finally. It's already up in that age where I would sometimes consider bringing a bin's life cycle, composting portion of its life cycle at least, to an end, and start transitioning it towards future things. So I'm wondering what we could do here to maybe recycle some of this old bedding material that we bump into as we examine the old feedings. And recycle it, because I really don't want to put any fresh bedding materials into a bin like this. I'd really like to see all the existing stuff start breaking down. Old piece of food, I wonder how far that's going to get, if it's going to need to just get hauled out with the worms at some point, or will the worms be able to do away with that mango seed before the time comes to get them out of here. You never know. Got to remember, there's all these leaves out here that need to be composted as well. And as nice as the leaves look out on the top surface when you open up the bin at first and see all that leafy material, nice natural stuff, I am starting to think that a good future use for that stuff is also to use it as bedding as we come back in here periodically to feed the bin. And so we'll recycle what we can find, any nice big chunks that we could rebuild the feeding area with. I wonder what these things were. I don't know. Maybe I could tear them up a little bit with my one hand. Try to keep the other hand clean. Not even sure what this is. Avocado, I guess. A few worms were hanging out inside of that. So when I find older chunks of food like that, avocado pits, mango seeds, other slow composting items, you don't get too put off by it. You just have to accept the fact that some things are going to vanish 1, 2, 3, and you'll see no sign of them a week after you gave it to the worms. Other things are going to take time. So I like combining some nice fresh stuff that they're going to be able to eat quickly with the existing slow composting leftovers that I find in the bin. Even corn. Oddly enough, corn is a slow composting thing. At least in my book. I don't know what other people experience, but I try to chunk up a corn cob into many little pieces like that to help speed the process along. And I do believe it helps a little bit. But still, I see those things in the bin week after week, and they're very slow to break down. Very slow. Alright, I didn't really even bring that much food down here, so I shouldn't go too crazy making a huge space to put the food into, because I went picking through some donations that I got from my mom. But she had everything sort of segmented in these separate little pouches, so I took a little bit of each, didn't take all of anything. So it was 4 different things here. I see some mushrooms, some sort of onion-like something. These are potato peels. And the leafy stuff, you know, I'm not even sure. Salad, I believe, and maybe just the stems of radishes or something along those lines. So I think we could maybe even take a glance at the outer edges of the bin after we get this feeding thrown down into the hole. We'll put all these leftovers we found along the way too down there. Keep the interest all in one central spot. And this bedding we're going to try to recycle, and then we'll even maybe start complementing it with some of this really nice leafy stuff lurking down below. So what do we got here for them? This is for both bins, so I'll give them half of these leaves of something. These things are also leaves. Salad, I believe. Oh, it falls apart so easily, frozen. But you know, when I was carrying it down here, after I picked it up off the counter, I thought I had loaded up a nice selection of things here. Right here too, mushrooms. I don't even know, did we give them a fair bit? I don't think they got the potato yet, but that's pretty much splitting it down the middle for both. And it's not much, so I probably have to come back here sooner than 10 days. 10 days does seem like it was a pretty good interval for this bin. It does seem like it did away with everything that it had gotten last time I saw. You know, the stuff I gave last time, I think it was all stuff that you would expect to go really quick. Tops of strawberries, the peels off of mangoes. I'm trying to remember. And these things too, all these things I would assume are going to go pretty quickly. I'm never too sure about the potato, but I seem to have pretty good luck with it. Knock on wood, try not to jinx it. But we'll get some of this nice leafy stuff kind of into the mix here too. As nice as it is to have it as a top cover, I'd like to see all this stuff broken down over time too, so this might be finally the time to start turning it from being eye candy to functional ingredient for the bin. So just want to take a quick peek out here along the edges to see what the material looks like through here. Yeah, it's coming along really nice. Still plenty of stuff down here mixed in with the finished compost to keep things interesting for the worms. Everything's got a nice loose and fluffy feel to it. Definitely have not been skimpy on the bedding, and what happened in this bin I believe was really the moment when I really transitioned from sort of being a stingy guy when it came to bedding to being like super duper generous with it. I don't know, this stuff seems a little dry. It makes me wonder if I should maybe top things off here with plastic and try to maintain the moisture that's in here rather than letting it further dry. Because right now, what did we have here? We had something to indicate where we fed, one sheet of newspaper and a sheet of cardboard. You know, for now, we'll keep it covered the way it is. It does seem a little dry, but might not be a problem. I'm okay with it for now. But we'll sort of put it on watch and we'll see how things go in the future. Let's get on to the other bin and get that one fed too. Alright, so let's see here. 120-day-old bin. Set up very similarly, has been getting managed very similarly. So we'll see a lot of commonalities. I think you can tell right away, just from taking it apart, it looks almost identical to the other system. But maybe here too, it'll be time to start trying to get all these leaves sort of into the mix and let the worms have at that stuff too, instead of leaving it out on the dry surface. Such a nice earthy smell coming off this bin as I scrape this stuff back. The moisture level in this bin almost seems like it's a little bit higher, but it's still a little bit early to tell, I think. It's hard to say still. This is the stem of a banana peel. Another piece of leftover. Typical to find leftovers in your worm bin usually. And it usually doesn't deter me from proceeding with a feeding. There's like lots of castings all through here. I think I've been going kind of stingy on the bedding lately on a number of my older bins. Maybe we'll do the same thing here. We'll see if we can scoop up some of these larger chunks of bedding as we encounter them and recycle them when we lay in today's feeding. So I don't know what they are, chunks of paper or cardboard or something, maybe newspaper. I don't see anything that resembles a leftover chunk of food though. I mean, obviously mango seed, an old one. Don't even know if the seed is still in there anymore, if it's just the husk. Definitely a lot of worm activity inside of it. It's always a popular spot for some reason. So I don't know how much more bedding we can recycle out of here. Might hit a few more pieces, but at this point it just looks like it's just castings and worms and a little bit of mixed in bedding here and there. No leftovers of anything that I could tell that's from the last feeding. What I'm breaking apart here is a corn cob. I could tell from its shape. I didn't notice what it was until it started crumbling in my hands. Same story here. Full of castings. I don't even know, is there any worms in this one? It seems like some of them are popular, some of them are not that popular. Alright, I think we scooped out a good amount of leftover bedding bits from previous feedings. Another corncob bit that I cracked just from handling it. So it's all good worm food. So same thing here, we're just going to open up a little bit of a pit into which we could drop today's feeding and let these little guys get back to their business of breaking down my waste. My kitchen scraps. My mom's kitchen scraps. Actually, it was a pretty timely donation too, because I was kind of running a little low on supplies to feed the worms with. So all the old food, all the new food. This is just the other half of that head of lettuce that I threw a part of into the other one. Here's some more of those mushroom bits. There's actually a whole bunch of mushroom, but I had such a hard time cracking it apart. It was all frozen together stiff. And this, I think, might be just the stems of some radishes or something. I'm not sure. But that's their feeding for today. I didn't apply any crushed eggshell today. Sometimes I use crushed eggshell as grit in my bins. Sometimes I skip it. It's not always necessary to give the worms grit with their feedings, but it certainly doesn't hurt either. I just didn't happen to have it out, so today they're not getting any. So yeah, putting a whole bunch of the leaves right down into the food. Let's get all this stuff going. Kind of nice to see, especially this stuff here, right? These sticks and stems always take forever. Alright, the feeding is covered up. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. Let me just take a quick peek out here too. See how moisture is. Both of these bins are so similar, I gotta say. Just from the way the material feels, from the concentration of the worms. I don't know, that other bin definitely seemed like it had a good amount of worms in it. I can't complain. This one here, I definitely feel like there is more, but not a huge, insane difference. So I think both bins are quite capable, do a great job. Let's check out how things look on this side, and then we'll be done here. Call it a day. So much nice, pretty much finished castings. No worm balls, no worm parties anywhere. But a good, you gotta admit, a good concentration of worms throughout. Everywhere you look, there's a good amount of worms hanging out. And they all look great. They all look nice and comfortable. Hopefully feeling well fed. So we'll put everything back the way we found it for the most part. Here too, I'm starting to wonder if maybe at some point it'd be a good idea to sort of give them a little bit more moisture to make it easier for them to break all this old leftover stuff down and turn it all into castings. It's just that might, increase the time it takes for it to dry out later. A little bit of a trade-off, but who knows. All right, everyone, that's it for today. That's my European night crawlers, both fed. This one getting its 13th feeding today, the other one getting its, no, this is feeding number 14 for this one, and feeding number 12 for the other one that we just did before. So that's it for today. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to leave me a thumbs up. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel too. That's really appreciated as well. All right, everyone, good night.